Hello, Cowboy Nation. Hello, Cowboy Nation. We want to just come on and post a video here. Um, I want to talk about something that I just talked about with a friend of mine, and we had a long discussion, and that long discussion ended in a lot of heated conversation. And I think this is a heated conversation for a lot of Cowboy fans. And I'm not going to. This another video is not going to be long because I want to post this video and want to get it out there. This is my trying to do a recording and post a video. So I'm not on live like I used to be. But I want to get out there, get this video out there and post this video. So again, if you like, please like, comment, and subscribe. Um, please share this video when I post it to YouTube and on Twitter and all these other platforms. Um, please like, comment, and subscribe, and please share the video and trying to get to a point where I can get to my point where I'm at a point where I'm so I can get monetized and we can try to keep growing this channel. And y'all can see it in some of my live shows that I've been having a little problems with trying to get this technical thing together. So I'm really trying to look to try to get that to going. When Coach Marv Real Talk is really growing. But I think your fans and you people, when I post this, are the reason why I do this. Never thought in a million years that I'll be out here um, doing a YouTube show. Um, but I do want to talk about a couple of things that I want to talk about. And the conversation that I had with a friend of mine was, what is the biggest uh, problem of the Cowboys um, in the last 30 years? What has been the biggest problem of the Cowboys and why we haven't had a chance to reach the back to at least an NFC championship game or to a Super Bowl or to win a Super Bowl? What is that? What's been that problem? And me being as old as I am and being as to go back into the 70s and even the 70s when we won Super Bowls in the 70s, to for me having that and knowing football and being a part of a student of the game, because my father made sure I was a student of the game, and I played and I coached. Always been a student of the game and always been able to look at football into a different light of just not just looking at it as an entertainment value. Um, One of the things I've always tried to tell people that this sport is the greatest team sport in sports, but it has a what we call an entertainment world, and then there's a sports world. Those two entities are totally different. Those two entities take a lot of dedication to make both of them successful. Yes, they're overlapping and they're in the same genre. Some people say it's entertaining. Yes, football is entertainment, and also football is a sport. Now, sometimes when you get too far into the entertainment world, you lose something in the sports world, and sometimes being too far into entertainment hurts you in the sports part, and sometimes being too far into the sports part hurts you into the entertainment. Now, one thing about the Cowboys, we have always been one of the greatest entertainment. We have always been great in entertainment. We have always, since the 1960s when we were brought about, we have always been that with the star and being in Texas. We have always brought a flash to the NFL that the NFL really covered it, because the Cowboys always was a team that brought visual things to the NFL world, and it helped the entertainment base of the conference and of the NFL's business. Now, is that talking in a very arrogant way? No, that's not. That's the truth. And since the beginning of 1960, they have always, with the flash and dash, they have always been entertainment. They were a solid organization when 1960 came about because of the fact that they had one coach. They had one coach for almost 30 years of their organization, and that was Tom Landry. And then they did play in some championship games against Green Bay, but they always was, at the beginning, when they started, after they got out of their rough part of the beginning, when they started to win in the mid 60s and late 60s and going into the 70s, They was known as a team that could not win the big one. They had many a times they played in the championship game, which wasn't the Super Bowl, but they could not beat the Green Bay Packers, and they couldn't beat the other team. But they was always a dominant player, but they was known as they couldn't win the big one. And then they finally got a chance to win the big one, but they still was the entertainment base of the NFL. They started putting them on the Thanksgiving Day, and that's the Cowboys always been the most popular team. Now, doesn't mean that popularity means that they're most liked or everybody loves the Cowboys. No. Again, as I said on one of my live streams, popularity means that someone has whoever the team that has the most opinions are considered the most popular. And the Cowboys have always, from the beginning, had the most opinions. Either you loved them, which a lot of people loved them, or you didn't like them at all, which a lot of people did. And since then, they have always been the team that has always had an opinion, either one way or the other, which that makes you polarizing, and which that makes you popular. And everybody wants everybody wants to vision, every sports, every organization, everything wants something out there that someone has an opinion about it, either one way or the other. So that what made the Cowboys a great team. So yes, we have always had the spotlight. So it's a different environment in Dallas. It's a different environment. So when me and my friends start talking about it, say, hey, well, why is the Cowboys in 30 years have not won? Well, I have always said that if you would follow me on Boston Cowboys Sports and you would follow me on when I got into this thing by talking to on a lot of different shows, I've always talked about this. I always said that to be the head coach and to win in the Dallas Cowboys, you have to be a very unique type of head coach. And whether is that saying you got to be unique because it's the Dallas Cowboys? Yes, that's probably the reason I'm saying you have to be unique. You have to be unique because you're dealing with a circumstance that's always in the spotlight. Whatever the entertainment was, if it was back in the day, long time ago, when they just did the local news, that's the only time you could see was local news. When it came to sports, if the Cowboys had any story, they reported on it. And that was in any state or any city. Whatever the news source was, we had a part of it because of the Dallas Cowboy name. Now, is that because we were so great? That's not being arrogant. That is the truth. Because we were polarizing. So, again, to be the head coach here, which Tom Landry was the head coach for over 30 years, I think, you have to be a very unique type of guy to be able to deal with the added distractions of being in Dallas and being on the biggest stage. As well as you have to be in a biggest stage and deal with all the other additives. And our ownership, even back with Tex Graham and moving into Jerry, they were not the greatest owners about just freely giving money. Now, they had some guys that got paid, but if you look back in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of guys that really knew that the Cowboys ran a hard line when it came to paying guys. And, some of those was based off the sign of the times, if someone understands what I'm talking about. But there were certain players that had to really work hard to get their money. And in some aspects, we got that going on right now. But they still pay a lot of guys. But it's a very unique position of being head coach. That's why they're in Dallas. We have won 5 Super Bowls, second most Super Bowls, third more. You got 2 teams tied with 6. And there's 2 teams tied with 5. So we in the 1 or 2 reigns of Super Bowls, but it's only 2 coaches that got them. And we want to say Barry Switzer got Super Bowl, but everybody know what that was. You got to be a very unique guy or inherit a very unique situation. So I think when I look at the coaches of the Dallas Cowboys, I think of 3 coaches that were very similar in their uniqueness. And those 3 coaches had very good success. One didn't win a Super Bowl, but for where he brought the team from, he set the team up for future success. We maybe not account into a Super Bowl. But those 3 coaches were Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, and Bill Parcells. And I'm not naming Bill Parcells because of his name brand or who he was. If you look at it when Bill Parcells came in and took over, He took over a team that was 5-11 for 3 years in a row. Almost just as bad as the team that we had when Jimmy Johnson took over this team. The cover was bare. And he instilled a work ethic, and he instilled something that I'm about to tell you about what the uniqueness of a coach you have to be to win here. And he instilled those things, and he won a division and got a team in the playoffs with some guys that really didn't even have talent, but they had a mentality that pushed through in the midst of all the chaos. Because not only you got to deal with the midst of chaos of the surroundings in Dallas, imagine what the surroundings was for Bill Parcells coming in with his big name. Everybody thinking Bill Parcells is going to get you to a Super Bowl. And then dealing with the added part of Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones with their sometimes overbearing, and at that time it was Stephen, but their overbearing personalities inside the room. That makes it a much more unique situation, and all eyes are on the team. Not just on the coaches, but it's on the players. It's hard to even keep focus. It's hard to keep the football being the main thing. And those characteristics that I'm talking about, those three coaches had, one thing that they all three were, they were strict disciplinarians when it came to football. All three of those guys allowed you to do your thing outside of football. Even Bill Parcells allowed Lawrence Taylor to do his thing. And some of the guys at Giants. Oh, Jimmy didn't care if the guys would party and do all their things and celebrate and everything. Tom Landry, guys, he was kind of a stickler, but he knew that Hollywood Henderson was doing certain things. He knew that every Harvey Martin was a character. He had a lot of characters on that Dallas team. You're talking about Don Meredith and all of them. They had a lot of characters because they soaked up the great media coverage that was in the Dallas Cowboys area. So, yes, those guys, those coaches had guys that they allowed them to do their crazy stuff and be their personalities. And there was a lot of great, crazy personalities on those teams. But one thing when I said about football discipline, when it came to the inside of back in the day, Valley Ranch, when it came down to training camp, when it came down to game situations, when it came down to football stuff, all three of those didn't take no crap. And every story you hear, when they talk about Tom Landry, they all talk about how hardcore and straight up this guy was, and he worked them vigorously. Whatever the level of work was, he took it there. Yeah, NFL was different then, yes, but he took it there. They always said the Cowboys was the hardest trainer, the most physical practices, and he was a stickler for doing things his way. Same thing with Jimmy Johnson. He allowed his players to go. They had the White House and do all that. But when it came to football, it was Jimmy way or no way, and you had to perform. So you could have done all the other stuff, but you better be in shape enough to perform when it came down to football. And did nothing on the field that was going to hurt this team. That's how the same thing with Jimmy was. The same thing with Tom Landry. Same thing with Bill Parcells. He came in here and he attacked Larry Allen from the start with. Did he attack Larry Allen because he didn't think Larry Allen could play? No. He attacked Larry Allen because he wanted to get the attention of the locker room. When I go in there, I'm going to jump on the bear first. Because I wanted to get attention from the locker room, and I wanted to get that Larry Allen to get back over where he may have gotten comfortable, where that's going to feed down to the rest of the team. And they got to that team where they were a real disciplined football team. And that's what got them to be good. And then if you think about it, when Bill Parcells just couldn't go no more. Yeah, all that pressure and all that. Yeah, y'all can talk about Jerry Randall, but it was just a point of holding that steady. he just couldn't go no more. He never could coach no more. The only reason he saved his life by getting out of there, so he had to let it go. But if you remember when the next guy took over, they won 13 games. That philosophy stayed into the Cowboys for a while, but then the softness of the coach, it finally bleeded out. The same thing that bleeded out when the Dallas with Jimmy Johnson left it. Jimmy Johnson left a legacy of hard work for this team that lasted 2 years after he left. And I think about when I look at if anybody want to look at the Americans game when they talk about when they interview the guys that went through that last Super Bowl when we beat Pittsburgh and how those guys talked about that. They barely finished it. They barely got to the finish line. They were leaking oil because the stuff that Jimmy had instilled in them, the work ethic was there for at least 2 years. But when you start taking the reins off and you start allowing things to get inside of football wise, it starts to affect your team. And they barely got across the finish line for that third Super Bowl. And then it went down like the Hindenburg after that. But 3 unique type of guys. So when I was telling my friend about it, he said, man, what? And I said, what is the Cowboys' biggest issue about winning? And the first thing that he said, and I know a lot of Cowboy fans are going to look at this and they're going to say, yeah, coach, it's the Joneses. And a lot of me is going to say, you're right. But I'm going to say you're right for one of the main reasons, another reason other than when y'all talk about meddling and play call. I don't think all that's happening. I think what it could be in an overbearing way, trying to be a coach, but I don't think they're really doing that. But when you get a general manager across this league, people think the general manager, and we got a unique situation because we have a general manager who's an owner. So he can't fire, he's not going to fire himself. But in any football organization, the general manager has one unique job. The general manager does not get judged by the players he pick up in free agency. The general manager does not get judged by the draft picks he drafts in the draft. Because most times the coaches have a good input on that. And I don't think the Joneses have never let their coaching staff not have input on the guys that they bring in here or they draft. But the general manager gets judged, and most general managers got fired because they hired the wrong guy to run their football team. How many times you'll see general managers get fired when the head coach get fired? Because the owner, which is the owner, in regular football settings, you got an owner, and then he hires the general manager, and then the owner tells the general manager, hire the people that's going to run this thing. And yes, you're going to be in the room to sign the free agents and to draft the guys, but the coach's job is to get the best out of those players. And I think the biggest issue in Dallas Cowboy land is, and it's a glaring issue, that we have taken the cheap route in hiring coaches. Now, some people are going to say, well, Coach Marv, we took the cheap route because we're trying to run things. We want puppets. That could be a very good argument. Or we could be very wrong at the people that we're hiring, thinking that, hey, they have the qualities, but they're not unique. Like I said, you have to be to win in Dallas. It's almost like this. I did the scenario of this. This past week, I was watching Lean on Me. Y'all know the movie Lean on Me with Joe Clark and at Eastside High. Not every principal, there's a lot of great principals at that time, but not every principal could have went to Eastside High and did what Joe Clark did. It took a unique type of person with a unique type of staff to get that accomplished. Just being an educated person, just being a disciplinarian person, just being a good person. None of those was going to get Eastside High to where it needed to be. You had to be a unique person to deal with that type of setting and to be able to get stuff accomplished. And you had to have people around you that was just as unique as yourself. Everybody, it wasn't a dozen people that could go in there and do that. You could put 10 people in there, maybe one or two might be able to get it accomplished. But it was not a criteria to be able to get it done unless you was a unique type person. And that's the same thing when I talk about being a head coach in Dallas. Now the question is, why did Jerry didn't do that? Because that unique person is going to have a little a-hole in it. Tom Landry was a great religious guy, didn't curse. But he was a very difficult person to deal with. You ain't have to be cursed to be stern and be a difficult person to deal with when it comes down to football. Jimmy Johnson, as he said in his speech when they put him in the Ring of Honor, he said, hey, Charles Haley, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, even Michael Irvin, y'all thought I was a tyrant, an a-hole. Yes, but listen, they loved him now, but he was a very difficult person to deal with. Bill Parcells called Terrell Owens that player. He didn't give Terrell Owens no special treatment. People say he didn't want Terrell there. He wanted Terrell there, but he wanted to make sure Terrell knew that this show is run by him, and he had to fall in line with the team. That's the uniqueness it takes to be the head coach of that, because you got to be a psychologist. You got to be able to monitor other distractions and to be able to get guys to perform when you have a fan base is boosting their heads up or tearing them down. You got to be able to demand the room when it comes down to talking to the media. So you can shut down rumors, and you can keep the fire under your team, as well as not allow guys to get big-headed. You got to have the respect and the trust. Now, I can tell you one thing that I knew that Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, and Bill Parcells had with this team. And it's the exact same thing I'm saying with this guy that Schottenheimer has to gain first. They made sure that they got trust and respect. Now, trust you may not listen. Trust don't mean that trust falls in and you're in love with trust. They trusted that this guy was all about winning, and he was going to be straight up with you if you wasn't performing. And they trusted that he was going to do exactly what he said he was going to do, good or bad. And they respected him. That don't mean they like neither one of those. They respect him. I listened to Thomas Hollywood Henderson say he couldn't stand Tom Landry, but he respected Tom Landry. And see, when you got trust and respect, and when you get a bunch of young men or a bunch of men to get a common goal, to come together as a team, and to be able to trust and respect their teammates, that don't mean you got to like them all. But the trust and respect you have for them leads you to have the same trust and respect of your teammates. When they accomplish their goals, that's trust and respect turns to admiration of their head coach. Because at the end of the day, they loved him to death. All three of them was loved by their players because they understood that this guy got them to a level with the trust and respect that they needed to get to. And they needed that push. See, contrary to belief, all young people want discipline and love. Contrary to your belief, all players yearn to be coached so they can make it easier for them. The ones that don't yearn to be coaches, they don't be around long. Like and love is not the first criteria when you want the guys to trust and respect you. Schottenheimer is trying to find out about his teammates and be more gentle with his players and talk to them and understand where they come and being concerning, because he's building trust now. When you get to training camp, he's going to build respect because he's going to bruise some egos about when you're not performing. I love what I heard about from another coach up there, Matt Ukafu said, we want a defense that everybody can be criticized. You know what that's saying? We're building trust and respect here, not love and like. Because we get too much into love and like before you accomplish your real goals, that can make you get so where I can't get you to respond. And you'll say it's be all right. I.e., that's what happened with Dan Quinn. Not saying that, but they got too far into like and love, and sometimes you don't respond. Same thing I think happened to the defensive back coach. There's parameters of where you're going, and you can have the like and love later on, but while we on this field and we are trying to accomplish this goal, I want to trust and respect more than I want like and love. So what I said about the Cowboys, what's the problem is, they have had the wrong type of leadership on the field. Jerry did everything else. He copied the blueprint. They have drafted, I put out a video with Logic Cowboy. Great person, man. Great videos. This man, if you, I know I'm advertising for other people, man, but Logic Cowboys, go out there and find it. Look up me. If you feel me on Coach Marv on 1914 on X, or follow me. Hey, listen, the Cowboys have drafted very well. Jerry went and fixed his scouting stuff with Will McClay, and they do now, and still yet in the 70s and the 90s, they were always getting gems. And they're still doing it right now today. The only thing that's different is Tom Landry turned those gems into champions. He pushed those guys to another level where they just weren't gems, they became superstars. They became fine working organisms of parts of a great culture of winning. Not choir boys, but when it came to football and toughness on the football field, the mental toughness, the physicality, the discipline when it came to football, the leadership and coaching when it came to football, and the talent, the five, that's my five. Remember, those are my five building blocks to a culture. In every coaches that I just named, if you look at their teams, they had those five building blocks in spades. They were physical. They were disciplined when it came to football. They were mentally tough to stay on top and stay on you. They had great coaching / leadership on the field with the players, led by the coach. And they had talent. And they maximized their talent. Those coaches made sure that they motivated those talent. My 4 things of what a coach needs to do with talent. They made sure they motivated those talent. Jimmy, Tom Landry, Bill Parsons were great motivators. They had no problem talking bad to none of the greats. They motivated them. They made sure that they refined their skills to get them to bring their skills out. They definitely held everybody accountable, and they put those guys in the right spots for those guys to shine. Those 3 unique coaches, because you got to be unique, because you got so much other problems going on. Just like I was saying about Joe Clark. Not everybody could go into that jungle and to be able to get to a point where it's become successful. Most people would be scared off. Some of the smartest people probably couldn't. It took a combination of smarts, determination, and you had to be somewhat of a dog. And you had to be able to get dogs, and you had to be able to be strong. So the same building blocks that you're trying to build as a culture, your coach got to be those. If you want a culture here, the culture is if there's a football culture, look at your head coach, and he is the identity of that culture. If he's not, you're not going to build the right culture. The culture is going to be who he is. He's going to be a reflection of how he runs himself. That's usually how it is. That was, man, the mentality rolls downhill. So when I say the Joneses have done the work, Jerry knew what type of coach he hired in 1988. He hired Jimmy because he knew Jimmy was that type of guy. They came from the great coach in Arkansas together. They understand how toughness has to be. They played on an All-American undefeated team. He knew Jimmy had those same criteria with a little less and allowed his players to dance and pop. But he knew that Jimmy could go into the jungle and get the guys to act the way and to be able to get together and perform. And he knew he didn't have to continue to get stockpile talent after talent after talent because he knew Jimmy was going to get the best out of his talent. See, one thing about coaching, and it's like in the business too. If I got a business and I got to go out and get the best machinery equipment better and spend all this money overhead and buy all this machinery equipment, and then I'm still coming in second, and the other company over there coming in, or I'm coming in third or coming in fourth, and I done spent I'll spend everybody on the equipment. I spent everybody on the facilities. And there's another guy over here, another company that don't spend, he spends some on certain things, but his managers, his employees, his managers can get the best out of people. And they overrun me because they're getting the best out of what they got. You think that I want to continue to do that? I'm going to find somebody who can get the best out of what I got. And what I said it is, the Cowboys have been pimping back with Jerry. The thing that has held Jerry back since Jimmy Johnson left here. And it started back with Bill Parcells. He started gaining back, but then Bill Parcells ran out of gas. And then he went right back to that philosophy. He has always said the thing that got them in a big argument was Jerry said that I can get 500 guys to coach a team and win with the talent that we have. And what he was saying to was, if I continue to do my job and get the talent here, or if I spend money and get the talent here, I can get anybody to coach the team and we can win. And that has not, and he's still 30-some years later is realizing that doesn't happen. See, the dumbest thing I think the Jones have done, that you knew what type of guy that got you to the mountain, and you kind of went back there with Bill Parcells and he just ran out of gas, and you still didn't go to that type of guy again. That's where you're being cursed at. Because you know better. You know what it takes in this crazy environment and the environment that you're going to make, Jerry. That type of personality is going to have some pushback. Landry had pushback with Tex Graham. Yes, they did. Jimmy had pushback with it. Yes. That don't mean that they didn't work together, but it was some pushback because it was football first, because those guys, those three guys I'm talking about they separated the entertainment world and the football world when it came inside those white lines. And it has to be a special breed to do it in Dallas. A rare breed. Now, could Schottenheimer be that guy? Well, the jury's still out. Does he have is he off to a good start? Yes. Does he have some qualities that I feel that may set him up to be that type of guy? Yes. One of the qualities is because his guy has been in this league 20 years. 2, he has a pedigree from a coach of his father that was a hard-nosed guy and understood football. They're still, regardless of how fancy you done got, it still come down to blocking and tackling. And yes, he done paid his dues because he been given a head coach job to 20 years later. And sometimes that puts you in a great spot of going the distance. Is his best quality as being a rookie coach? Because I believe rookie coaches get I think the Joneses give them more of a free hand to do something things. And then after that, then they try to make it right. They'll know if this guy's the right guy off the bat. But then when they find out a guy's not the right guy, what they've done in the past, they'll try to keep fixing it up to try to make it right. And then we wasting, like we just wasted 5 years. Yeah, we're never going to get over the hump with that guy. He was going to get a certain there because he got a certain there because of the talent you had on this team. But he wasn't going to get you over the hump with the major teams. Do I like some of the characteristics? Because Schottenheimer's talking about it must be us? Yes, because now I think what he's doing is he's spreading the responsibility like it's always should be on all of us, not just holding it accountable on one unit or one person, i.e. Dak Prescott. Did the Joneses make the right person hire to run their football team? Because general managers, they don't get fired because the draft pick don't work. They fired a head coach, and then they fired the general manager because they say the general manager hired the coach. And if you want to be indicted, Jerry Jones, there is no 500 guys that you could get with a team that got talent that you can put on that team and coach them, and they will continue to win. You have stood 10 toes down on that. Barry barely got across the line, but that mentality and players was all Jimmy's. It didn't take long for that to leave, because after year 2, it went straight downhill because you didn't keep the instill of the pressure that it needs to be to win. Y'all talked about when Michael Irvin came there and said about he went to practice. He says pressure. And one thing about those 3 coaches that I named that their uniqueness was they made you feel pressure even in practice because they understood being a Dallas Cowboy, you were going to get everybody's best shot. Now, so do I think that did they finally make the right hire? This season would tell. Would it tell if we win a Super Bowl? But I would be able to tell because there are some very characteristics that has to change. And one is about the culture. We're going to see if they're a more physical team. We're going to see if the Cowboys go back to one of the hardest training teams in the league because when they was at their heyday, they were the cavalier of how people train to win. They were imitated, yes. Not because of the imitated because of their brashness and their boldness of Arkansas. They was imitated because of their hard working training camp. Remember, Bill Parcells had a training camp in San Antonio. And they didn't like that. People didn't like that, man. Bill worked these guys. And he wanted to practice outside in the heat. Yeah. He didn't like to practice inside. He wanted his team to feel strain so he could find out what's their stress level. Because this game of football is not an easy sport. And those who bleed less in those who bleed more in peace, they bleed less in war. And those who that bleed more, that bleed less in peace, they bleed like hogs in war. What Schottenheimer has to do? He has to strip down this football team arrogance of saying, since we are the most popular, liked or disliked, since we are on the stage, big as the sun, he got to strip them down to say, hey, you still got to earn the right to be champions. And you got to get that out the mud. One thing I can always say about Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman and Charles Haley and Leon Lett and all the Darren Woodson and Emmitt Smith, one thing that you can always count on, these guys knew about getting it out the mud. They did their partying and everything, but when it came to work, I questioned that they didn't come to practice and work like dogs. And they challenged each other. Nobody questioned that. See, they knew how to be superstars. They knew how to have a good time. But when it came to work, they understood the work was what you're going to get. And if Schottenheimer going to do that, hey, it's his coaches going to have the same mentality that he has. And I do like when he brought the stars, the legends back. Because the legends can tell this football team that, hey, we always been them boys. Whatever media source it was, we always been the ones that partied the most. But when it came to football, we was the nastiest. We was the most innovative. And we were physical. So we didn't live on that type of stuff. We built our own legacy every year. If Schottenheimer wants to win here, he has to work with the mental part more than the X's and O's. Is he the right guy? We will see, Jerry. But you've been judged not by the free agents you done picked up. You've been judged by the guy that you have said that run the sideline and run your football team. And those guys, there is no salary cap, Jerry. That's where you've been wrong for 30 years. And that's, my people, is why general managers get fired. Head coaches get fired because they have bad offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. Defensive coordinators get fired because they have bad defensive linemen, linebacker coaches, or defensive back coaches. Offensive coordinators get fired because they have bad running back coaches and offensive line coaches. Jerry, you have not made that type of hire. You have said, I'm going away from the guy. Listen, If you wanted to win, you would have had a Harbaugh here already. You would have been the guy Sean Payton here already. Because you knew that they type of mentalities, or Bill Belichick, or some of these other coaches that have passed by in the 30 years, if you knew that their mentality was a lot like Jimmy. And for that, Joneses, I indict you on all counts. Because most general managers will be fired if they get guys that got 7 Pro Bowlers and they can't get out the first round of the playoffs. Yeah, they'll be fired. And the general manager that hired them will be fired too, because they put their name on that. So if you go out in your oil business and you hire the wrong people to run a project, and the project fail and you lose the contract, the people gonna fire you and get rid of the contract that you had. They're not gonna go to your superintendent and fire him. They're gonna fire you because you had the wrong person running their project, and that you the one that hired. So the question is Shotty that guy? For one thing, as coaches, as not coaches, but for fans, we got to trust them. And I'm not giving them an excuse about, well, you know, they can't do nothing because the Jones are getting it. They got enough talent on this team to win. When you got one of the best defensive players on the team, one of the top 10 defensive backs in the last couple of years, when you got linebackers, you got probably all first round offensive line, you are expected, and you got one of the best quarterbacks, you are expected to get this team to that level. And it's a mental type thing. You got to control the mental. With all the other distractions, you got to make your word inside that locker room law. And you got to make everybody humble once they walk into the star. They can be stars and flamboyant outside the star. But when they walk inside that star and they get between the white lines, they got to be about team and winning. Let's see. And that was my answer to my friend. The biggest indictment in 30 years, that you didn't stay to the course of uniqueness. Because uniqueness at the mantle is needed in Dallas. It ain't for everybody. And the ones that can do it, they win big. Again, if you watch this video when I post it, if you like it, please like it. Please, if you can, leave a comment. Please send me a message. It's Coach Marv 1914. Coach Marv 1914 on X. Follow me on Facebook at Coach Marv. My Facebook account is Coach Marv. Follow me at Coach Marv on fan base. Coach Marv 1914 on Twitter. Not Twitter, but on Instagram. And my YouTube channel is Coach Marv Real Talk. Check out my playlist. My video will be probably posted in my playlist. Check out my playlist. I got various topics we're going to talk real football. I'm going to give it to you straight with no Novocaine. Hopefully you will see some of my things about the cultures I'm building. 5 stops built, the 5 parts that we knew, the foundation blocks to build a culture: physicality, discipline, mental toughness, culture and leadership and talent. You see the things you see in one of my videos talking about the stages that we are into this culture build. And the stages, there are 5 stages into a culture build. Right now we in the excitement stage. Yes, it's some excitement going on. Then you got the adjustment stage. Then you got the testing stage. Then you got the persistent stage. And then we're in the maturation stage of 5. And it's going to take some of those things. So we're in the stage and they're going to overlap. So there's a lot of information that you can get out of my videos. Please support old guy trying to get up to 5,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get up to at least, my goal right now is to get up to 400 subscribers in the next week or so. If you can help me by sharing this video and sending it out. Again, if you have anything you do this video on a later date, and if you want to send something to Coach Marv for the content and everything that you send with a message, if you send some cash out, all this stuff is going to make sure that we can try to put out better videos, better stuff for you, and be able to work together as a Cowboy. When and send me some things to my inbox and stuff, and give me some ideas and say, maybe, Coach, when you want to talk about this. Let's learn some things about football. Let's learn. Maybe you want to hear about hidden yardage. I'm going to do a video on hidden yardage. That is very key to the success of a football team. A lot of people don't understand about hidden yardage. Teams that win hidden yardage win. Teams that win yards per play, if you rank in the top 3 in yards per play, you win 73% of your games. Don't you know in McCarthy years, we have now even ranked in the top 10 in yards per play? So, and don't you know as a defense, we allow too many big plays? So if we do those two things, this got to open up the flastivity of our team. But again, it goes back to a special breed of head coach to get this team to understand it's the little things that count. And it's going to be the little things that's going to get us to where we need to go. Yes, Jerry Jones, your biggest indictment is who you'd have had to run this football organization. And you had the blueprint of the type of mentality it takes to get this team to another level. You had it twice. Did you make the right decision this time? Again, thank y'all. Until next time, salute.